Well, what about Bromley? They are 7 points clear in the automatic promotion race in League Two and 6 points clear at the top of the league. But that could have been even more after that 2-2 midweek draw with Croix Alexandra, a late equaliser, as they adjust to life without Deji Oshalaja, who has moved to Lincoln City. But there's a possibility of MK Dons. They're really starting to pick up pace now, and their 25-man League One squad is starting to pay, isn't it? They're on a rather long unbeaten run and could very much come into the ascendancy, already second in the table. But what about Cambridge United? 14 unbeaten for Neil Harris's side following that 1-0 victory over Shrewsbury in midweek, the late penalty. Just behind them outside the automatic promotion race is Salford City on 49. Then there's Notts County on 48. Walsall on the same points total with a bit of a drop in form of late. And then Swindon, who had been one of the front runners, they're now on 46. So that's get my words out. That's the picture as things stand. Is the current top three in League Two going to come from one of those seven, or is there going to be a late runner, as there's often been in previous seasons? And if so, which of those seven make the cut? Well, that's what we're going to try and discuss on this League Two podcast. So if you like what we do here, you can do us a massive favour and get subscribed to us on YouTube and on Spotify. If you want to give a little bit more support to the channel, you also have a membership option, which you can get bonus content, my little 10-minute ramblings on the state of play, the extra content for those who fancy supporting the channel, and every penny that comes in from that will go straight back in to EFL Debate. So we would really appreciate any new members on YouTube. And also Spotify, it's available as well. So I'm delighted to introduce my co-host for the evening, that is Danny Shepherd of the One Up Front Salford City blog and the Old Dead Tree fanzine on the Annies. Danny, thanks so much for joining us. Good evening.
Total pleasure.
What's your take on the state of play, and is the top three of League Two going to come from one of the current top seven, do you think?
I mean, when I think of the teams that I've seen this season live, I think the most impressive teams that are definitely within that. I wouldn't necessarily class Salford within that, strangely enough. Okay. But as we go through the teams in the episode, I'll be talking about the ones that have impressed me the most. But yeah, there's at least two that I think are particularly impressive. And I'll just say one thing. Strangely enough for me, Bromley wasn't the most impressive, but I'll get more on that for later.
That's quite a common perception on Bromley, and we'll come on to them in more detail. I actually really like Bromley. I think there's a lot to like about them, and I think they've got a real humility about them and a togetherness and a real organisation, and they're such a good set-piece team. But I can also understand why aesthetically and as an opposition fan, sometimes they don't always feel like the most impressive opponents. So more on that to come. But for now, I'm delighted to be joined by Tony Bell, who's a Notts County fan. Tony, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming on. What's your take on where Notts County are at in the automatic promotion race after that 2-1 victory over Swindon?
Well, I think certainly the last two games and the last three wins, I think they're on an upward trajectory. Definitely, I think they've been going in the right direction, and the last two performances have been really, really good. In fact, they should have won comfortably by a lot more goals in both cases. So they're creating loads of chances. They're not putting them all away, but they've got Jamie Belshaw in goal now. And it makes for a much more stable defence.
Yes, Calarus had come under criticism in the first half of the season, hadn't he, Tony? And James Belshaw is not only one of the best shot stoppers in League Two, as he's proven over the last couple of seasons since returning to Harrogate Town, but also he's a pie himself. He's been to games where he's been at Meadow Lane this season when he's been able to, when Harrogate have been out of action. So he's already got that affinity. And so from a narrative point of view, it's a great connection. And he's also a fantastic goalkeeper in his own right.
Yeah, I mean, I've been surprised at how good he is. I didn't realise he was that good. I mean, he kept us in the victory with the 88th minute save. It was an absolutely phenomenal save. And he just exudes confidence. And I've noticed that our back three are much more secure with him behind them. So I think that we've got a much more solid defence. And then we've signed Lee. I don't know how to pronounce it, but yeah, he came on for the last 8 minutes and looked like an absolute monster. We've got Jatta, who had his probably best game ever against Swindon, and Dennis scored an absolute peach of a goal. So I think don't underestimate Notts County is what I'm saying, really, because we were all everyone. Inside and outside of county, were worried about the idea that we were going to analyse our way to the top, and there was that sort of worry about Martin Patterson. But actually, what I've noticed is we've got the same team spirit that we had when we came up from the National League with Luke Williams. There's a real togetherness and there's a real resilience and strength. So, and also we're playing really speedy attacking football. We're not quite as, what would you call it under Maynard? We're not quite as ticky-tacky or ticky-tappy, but we're much more direct and much stronger. And Jody Jones has started to find his feet again. So, I have watched the other. Swindon for me are in trouble. If
they look quite open, don't they, Swindon?
That they're too. Did you hear Ian Holloway's post-match speeches? They were quite good value, sort of talking about the hen-pecking order of the youngsters and that he's struggling to get experience in. So I think they're struggling. I think Bromley, I know people find them unattractive, but I think they're going to be top 1 or 2. I think MK Dons are going to be top 1 or 2, and I think the third spot is going to be Salford, County, Cambridge. I think it's going to be a battle for third.
Interesting.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Tony. I think we actually played pretty well against you guys when we faced you at your home ground. I think did we win 3-1 maybe? I was pretty pleased with what we did on that day, and it made me think, we could have a pretty good season. But the one thing that puzzles me maybe slightly, maybe you can fill me in. Are your fan base slightly kind of tepid on Jatta? Is he divisive? He's got a number of goals, but I don't feel like there's a massive amount of adoration and love for him, unless I've missed something.
He's just catapulted in the last couple of games. He was inconsistent, but he's played out of his skin the last couple of games. I think the thing about Jatta is that people are also a little bit wary that he's going to be sold at any moment, and I wouldn't be surprised if there are a few jitters in the last 4 to 5 days of this window. Because he's actually playing out of his skin, so he's going to attract bigger transfer fees, and the kind of pragmatic approach of the owners means that if a 750k bid comes in for him, they'll sell him. And I might be, I'm sort of Mr. Pessimist by nature, and I was a little bit concerned that Lee, Gab can pronounce his surname for me, but
I reckon Barnet fans are saying, and Love ain't here anymore.
Yeah, well, there you are. But he absolutely marmalised us in the playoff. We only just scraped through against Boreham Wood in 2023, I think it was. But but I was worried that he was a replacement for Jatta, and so I'm still not convinced he isn't going to be sold. But in terms of the fans' love for Jatta, I think it's increased a lot in the last 2 or 3 games. I think. Look, his first. If you, I think against you, I think he was nullified. Was he?
He has been a few times. Last season, Curtis Till had him in his pocket. From what I remember. It's one of them.
But yesterday he absolutely ran riot. So I think his first touch may have improved. We've got Dennis as well, and sometimes they play as a 2, sometimes they alternate. Or Pender, the low knee.
Oh, I like him. He's good, isn't he?
Absolutely brilliant, and he's getting better and better and better. He's a massive plus. And Norburn is transformed. Norburn looked like a red card waiting to happen, and now he looks like a cultured, the most cultured central midfielder you'll see in League Two.
I would have classed him as a decent League One midfielder, Tony. So I think it doesn't surprise me that he's showing his class in League Two.
Yeah, I think that his massive improvement, Jody Jones's improvement, Jatta's improvement. I just think that watch out really. I'm not saying that County will go beyond third place, but I wouldn't be surprised if they battle it out with Salford there.
To be fair, if I look at the names on the squad, Jacob Bideau, I think, is a top League Two defender. I know you've got others, but I think he's absolutely brilliant. How he's still at this level, I'm just like, wow. But so you've got him, you've got Belshaw, who's one of the best performers in League Two, as we've mentioned. Tom Yorpender, who's always, even before his time at Notts County, really highly rated prospect at Huddersfield. You've got Jody Jones. We know how just unbelievable, ridiculous Jody Jones can be at this level when he's on it. And then you've got Jatta, who's currently still there, albeit there's a replacement there, and Matty Dennis, of course, who's not even getting into the 11. Maybe I've been guilty of underestimating Notts County, and I need you to remind me sometimes, Tony, what you've got in the locker.
Yeah, I mean, what do you see as the negatives then, Gabs?
So I think I guess I look at some of the names of some of the other managers. I would like Paul Warne, for instance, has won 3 promotions in his career. David Artell, who I know we had a bit of back and forth about. He's someone who I'm a big believer in because of the body of evidence that he's produced over a number of years. Neil Harris won promotion with Millwall, always outperformed budgetary rank throughout his career. Carl Robinson's an experienced Football League manager. Where I look at Martin Patterson, and I don't think his body of evidence as a manager is quite as extensive. I'm sure he'd turn around and say he's worked in the Championship and this, that, and the other. But I probably wouldn't have as much belief in him instinctively. But obviously, you're seeing things that maybe I need to raise him up in my estimations.
It's not a one-man band. It's a 3-pronged attack in our coaching staff. It's Sam Slocum, Andy Edwards, and Martin, and it's a real all singing from the same hymn sheet. I think the players love him, and I think he's good. I think he's good tactically. I think he's a fantastic motivator. I think he's. Of all the ones you've mentioned, I think Paul Warne and MK, and also the Salford manager, I think they're in the driving seat. To be honest, I'm not convinced that that the others are. That Artell's quite there. I know you think he's wonderful. I think you've just got to look at the spirit. I think at this stage in the season, it's as much about the togetherness, unity, spirit in the club and the team as it is about their kind of quality on paper. And I think we all underestimated. We thought this team an analytical approach was going to fall on its arse, but I actually think it's brought everybody together. So I don't think you can talk about it, Martin Patterson, as a sort of one-man band. I think it's a whole team of them. With now Richard Montague coming in as that's
great news, actually.
Our recruitment's been fantastic. It really has, and it's not been overblown. They have bought themselves to the top of the league, but we haven't. But we've bought some really astute signings there. Yeah, I just think it's all coming to pass at the right time. We've unfortunately Matt Palmer's been is injured again. Scott Robertson's coming back, but I think we've got more depth than we had at the start of the season.
Well, note to self: need to give Notts County a bit more credit.
Yeah, I think so.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Tony, it's been great to get your insights, and thanks so much for talking to us.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
So my next guest is Ben Nichols from the Fools Rush In podcast. Ben, great to have you with us. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. What's your take on where Swindon Town are at? Form of late hasn't quite been what it was following that 2-1 loss at Notts County.
Yeah, no, if you asked me 2 weeks ago, I've been a lot more chirpier than I am right now. We have hit a bit of sticky form in a minute. Overall, it's been a great season. We're 4 points off top 3. We have been top 3 all season. We've got an experienced manager, decent squad depth, but it's kind of a little bit off the rails. We went for a bit of a tough run. We've played Salford twice, the FA Cup and the league. And we've played Bromley away and Notts County away, and we've lost by the odd goal in all 4 of them. Some of which has been our own doing, some of it's, a little bit unlucky. But we've kind of broken the habit and got into a habit of finding ways to lose at the minute. So we need to break out of that as soon as we can. But overall, I can't complain. I would have taken where we are at the start of the season for sure.
Absolutely.
I was just going to say, actually, Gabby, if it's all right, in fact, you mentioned, Ben, that you faced us twice. And was it within 3 days of each other, or was it just in the same week?
Yeah.
I can't quite remember. Yeah, it was.
It was like within like 3-4 days. I've not really seen that before, other than a playoff game where 2 teams play each other, reasonably quickly. And we kind of started slowly and shot ourselves in the foot at the county ground. And I think Salford started particularly well and played quite well in the 3-2 win there. We got back into the game, but couldn't quite get there. And the FA Cup game was a bit of an FA Cup classic where it sort of ebbed and flowed either way, and it could have gone either way, but in the end, it's Salford that got there. I think we've been competitive in all the recent games that we played. We could have gone into Bromley in a commanding lead, and then they score within 25 seconds of the second half, and then it turns the game on its head. And again, last night, we could have, in injury time, snatched a last gasp equaliser with quite a bad miss, actually, from a yard out, cost us. So it's just not going our way. But that's football, isn't it? You go through these sticky times. It's a roller coaster. It's a marathon, not a sprint, of all the cliches that you want to think. It's poor form at the minute, but one win and it all turns around and you start to feel better for yourselves. I think the important thing is just to keep your head and take each game as it comes, and there's nothing you can do. What happened last week, it's all about next week.
So I think we've seen, Ben, when Swindon are at their best, they're a very strong side, especially going forward, and they've got so many avenues through which they can create chances and score goals. I suppose the criticism would be when that football isn't flowing, you're maybe a bit easier than you'd like to be to possibly carve open. Is that something you'd agree with, or am I being a bit overcritical there?
No. I think at the start of the season, especially, I think we had a tag of scoring very pretty to watch, scoring lots of goals, but because of that, we're quite easy to suck a punch, and we do concede a few. Until our bad run started, we won 8 and 10, and I think we only conceded about 3 goals in that period. And I think the arrival of Tafazzoli really helped solidify the defence, and we looked a lot secure because of that leadership. But as I say, over the last few weeks, we've kind of gone off the rails a little bit. And I think largely defensively, I still think we're creating chances, but I just think we shot ourselves in the foot and we've started sluggishly and we've let goals in that, bad habits that we had we thought we'd got over, we've sort of reintroducing, which must be very frustrating for Ian Holloway. I know it's for a Swindon fan.
Forgive my ignorance. What happened to Tafazzoli? Why wasn't he starting? Was he out or?
Yesterday he's got a habit of picking up niggles, and I think he needs to be managed just a little bit. And Swindon are currently going for a period of 6 weeks of Saturday, Tuesday, because we've done quite well in the FA Cup, and then we've done quite well in the Virtue Paint, which we're taking reasonably seriously. Though that's another matter of what's going on there at the minute. We're having to manage players a little bit, and his experience is quite important. So we ideally probably would have played on Tuesday, but we've got the depth where we can rest him if needs be. We don't have to stick him in there, but you might much rather than rest him for the odd game than lose him for 5 or 6 because we've flogged him.
Yeah.
One thing I'd love to ask you, if I could, Ben, is just about you mentioned sluggish starts, and I can think of the match you played against us. First 30 minutes, one of those 2 games, they blend into one in my mind. Could have been at your place. I just don't think you were there for the first half an hour. No. It felt like you weren't pressing us, which I was really surprised about. I didn't understand what that philosophy was about. But then, I've looked at a lot of content for Swindon, and it appears this slow start for the first half isn't isolated. It's something that's happening a lot. Then he changes it at half time, maybe, and things start to look a bit brighter. But any idea why that's happening?
I don't know. We seem to have gotten this habit towards the back end of the good run of really turning out really well for one half and then completely disappearing for the other.
Yeah.
And against Salford, in both really times we'd gone 2 down, where we not really done ourselves much justice beforehand. And you're absolutely right. I remember the game at the County Ground, we were first 5-10 minutes we looked okay, but for the rest of the full first half, pretty pedestrian, really. And it was Salford pulling the strings, and we scored against the run of play. And, it was kind of easy for you lot until we did. And once we scored, we kind of kicked into gear. And then it was a bit of a free-for-all after that game opened up. It was a really good watch.
Yeah.
But again, sort of in the second game, we kind of go 2-0 down before we actually start kicking into play. And then we've given ourselves so much to do. We get ourselves into 2-2, and then it goes against us late on.
Do you think you're missing a natural physical enforcer type, Ben, at the base?
Yeah, well, we've got Ollie Clark, who's been missing for a lot of games, again, because of the Virtue Paint thing. He was back the other day, and he can do that kind of role. We've got players that kind of...
Sorry, Ben, would you say he's physical, though, Ollie Clark? I mean, he's certainly experienced, but... Yeah,
no, he throws himself about. He loves a bit of a tackle. It's kind of his signature, really, in that sort of sense. He's not the sort of Anthony Grant sort of just sit at the back, I think is what you're referring to. Sit at the back and don't move then. And Ollie Clark is more of an 8. I've played other places, but I mentioned about Tom Nichols has kind of reverted into midfield. You've got James Bald as well, who can play that sort of role, but he's been used more as a central defender. I think Holloway prefers more his 8s and a deep line playmaker, which we've got in Kilkenny. We've just signed the young...
It's a long freeze, that, Gab.
He's pausing for thought.
Yeah, deep freeze, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what will happen. We may have to pause at any moment. He could come back in if the internet is looking less likely. So we'll just remove
him. No, I can't. No.
Yeah, we'll remove him for now, and then maybe come back. One trend I sort of wanted to pick you up on, Danny, which is quite more on a general point, is it's Ben there.
Hello, sorry about that.
No worries.
my little iPad sort of disappeared there for a second. It went for a little update. I don't know what he was doing there. Central defensive midfielders, though. We signed another sort of deep lying midfielder, a young lad from Sunderland who's been excelling at Premier League 2 level, but I think he's kind of one for the future. So I kind of think he rather has 2 battling 8s rather than that sort of like deep lying kick 'em and physicality type player. He is quite attack-minded in Holloway. He always has been his whole career. He's always been trying to score the next goal rather than contain look after what you've got. We don't have one. Maybe it's an idea to purchase one, but we're certainly not in the market.
That makes sense. What was I going to ask? Yes, I want to ask you about Holman, because I spoke to a Wolves account, I think it's Wolves Fancast, who said they were actually quite surprised that Holman wasn't retained or that he was let go permanently by Wolves. So it shows that you've done well not just to get him, but to get him permanently as opposed to only on loan.
Yeah, no, there was quite a few League 2 clubs after him. And I think Swindon wanted to make it a permanent fixture. He'd done quite well. I think he'd been loaned at Solihull last year, so he experienced at the sort of National League level. He scored within 10 minutes of his EFL, first start for Swindon. Came on off the sub against Salford, but he scored in his first start against Bromley and really could have easily had a hat-trick in that game, the first half, which we bossed them, really. And he did all right last night. He's got physicality. He's good skill, pick a pass. He's good in the air. He's got a good shot on him as well. He's actually quite impressed at the minute. He's sort of settled in reasonably well. So he's quite a useful addition. And we kind of needed that sort of player since Glatzel done his hamstring. He's out now for the rest of the season. So we need that kind of...
That poor lad can't get a break, because he was talked about as such an exciting player, Paul Glatzel, at the Liverpool Academy. And I think he first got the move to Tranmere around 2021. And he's had lots of chances in the Football League and showed ability with your lot. And there's been times where it's felt like he could be the best player in the league if he can get a full season under his belt. But just fitness-wise, he can't catch a break. And I really feel for him, because shows that the
Could I
potential's certainly there.
Can I just wade in on that, because it's something that actually I heard, not this transfer window, the previous one, that he's at head of our academy now, but I think he was director of football at Swindon previously, Jamie Russell. Apparently his quote was that Glatzel is the perfect footballer, perfect modern footballer. But as you say, like you can have all the ingredients, but it's got to be put together. I think we were looking at making a bid sometime last season. Didn't happen. Strong rumours. So I think we're going for Macaulay Langstaff next. So we're really throwing it out there. Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, Glatzy. Well, he kind of got over his problem, because since he was at Swindon, he's not really had anything, because he'd always had problems with his hamstring at Liverpool. He had a nightmare at Tranmere where he kept just breaking down. And he came to Swindon with this horrific record of injuries, but a good quality young player. And this is the first time he's properly breaking down in the year and a half that he's been here. But it's a nasty one where his hamstring, I think, is detached a little bit from his actual, it's not right. It's not good. And straight away he knew. He's out for the season, and he's gutted for it, because he is a workhorse. He can play either as a 9, he can play as a winger outside right. He's filled in at wing back this season when we've needed him there as well. He works. There's not a player that runs as hard or works as hard for your team. His goals have been off the boil a little bit. He's not that regular scorer anymore, but he has been playing a little bit deeper as well. I think Holloway loves him. I think he thinks the world of him. It's a shame that he's gone. This is kind of why we moved in for Holman, though.
Yeah, well, we wish him well with his recovery, and hopefully he can find a fitness formula for himself, because clearly there's a lot of ability there in his career. So hopefully he does well in the second half of it. How do you feel about Swindon's promotion prospects then, Ben? Do you feel like you're still in with a chance? You're a little bit feeling a little bit lower than you maybe were?
Again, if you asked me 2 weeks ago, I've been quite buoyant, but I think there's Salford are making waves, as you say. Macaulay Langstaff is a target for them. They're really going to be up there coming the end of the season. You've got Bromley aren't going anywhere, really. They're such a reliable unit, and they know how to grind out results and win games. They've proved against us as well. They really turned the game around brilliantly and won it late on. You look at MK Dons are going to get stronger with them next week, aren't they? They're going to, I think the quality and the players are moving in the top 3. So just keeping up with them is going to be a job. I'm less, bullish about our top 3 aspects now. We've slipped out of them, and naturally, and we've lost to teams around us as well. That's also going to dent confidence as well. When the team, you want to have a good record about the team around. It's pretty poor, to be honest. But we've got 5 games coming up, all 5 against teams towards the bottom end of the league. There's no guarantees in football. It's not saying we're gonna win them all. It's guaranteed to win, but it's an opportunity to Barrow's next at home, and then Harrogate away, and they're in a poor, sorry state at the minute for Harrogate. So there's an opportunity just to get 2 wins. And then if we do that, then we'll start to feel better about ourselves. And then we would have pulled the gap, hopefully, a little bit towards the top 3. And I could be a little bit more bullish again. So we're only halfway through, aren't we? To be honest, so much can happen. And I've said to you previously, let's see where we are at the end of January. And then let's see where we are at the end of March when the run-in starts. And then, that's the important bit. Whoever's in form at that period will generally go up.
Absolutely. Well, we wish you well, Ben, and look forward to catching up later in the season.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thanks, so I'm delighted to be joined by Simon Ward from Walsall Fan TV. Simon, thank you for joining us this evening. What did you have for dinner, by the way?
I had a steak and chips with some veg.
Oh, lovely. Perfect.
I only just this second finished it.
Okay, so if you get a few hiccups, we'll let you off.
I think we'll leave that to the team, I think.
I wanted to ask you, after a couple of goalless draws at home to Accrington Stanley and Crawley, there's definitely a bit of criticism going around Walsall, and probably a bit of trepidation, not helped by what happened last season, obviously. Do you feel like we're approaching an important few days for Travella and their ownership group?
Travella and Matt Sadler. Yeah, it's there's a lot of people not happy. I think first part of the season we've not been particularly playing well, but we've been getting results, which people sort of smile then, sort of like, oh, we've been battered all game and we've still won. But then when you stop winning, it's like, hang on, why are we never getting the ball? Why do we keep giving the ball away so often? And I think Walsall are in sort of transition. They're trying to change style mid-season because of obviously what happens, and we've been found out with our style and that sort of stuff. But I don't think half the team are aware that we're trying to change. So
Interesting. I mean, for me, the big thing that I don't know if Walsall fans agree with me on this being a central issue, but from where I'm sitting, it is. I think you've got to sign the right target man in the next few days, because I think that the way Matt Sadler likes to play, and both in and out of possession, how important the target man is to making the system look good. It needs to be the right profile, and if you've not got a huge amount of confidence in Aaron Presley in general, because I know he's not exactly a fan favourite, but also, can you afford to bombard him with games? And if you do that, do you take away some of his freshness? I think you've got to sign the right target man that can occupy defenders and can lead the press and can bring us into the game. Because I think if you have that, I think the style looks a bit better. But at the moment, I can imagine it's a grim watch.
well, it is. There's a player I've sort of been keen on for a while, Josh Davison, and he's just moved and not come to Walsall.
Yeah, he's gone to Cheltenham, hasn't he?
Yeah, going to Cheltenham, yeah. The Cheltenham fans aren't sort of enamoured with him because he's a striker that doesn't score goals, of course, or doesn't score many goals. But it's probably what Walsall needed, somebody like that. I think we've done the same again as we did last season. Ethan Wheatley last season was not ready for League Two.
Yeah.
And now we've brought in Lupala by. And from what we've seen of him so far, physicality-wise, he's struggling to adapt. He has had 20 games with Dagenham last season, so he's aware of the more physical side. So he's perhaps more likely to adapt than Ethan Wheatley.
I suppose I would argue, Simon, when you have the right target man that wins loads of duels, you don't need the other striker who's playing alongside them to be as physical. I wouldn't say Daniel Carney needs to be that physical when he's played alongside Aaron Presley, but he's kind of buzzed around the edge of the box and he's got that quick feet and he can elude challenges and he has that agility about him. So I don't know if it's just about physicality. I think you need the target man to have that, but I don't think it's a must for necessarily who they play alongside.
Yeah, I think Jamil Matt can't play 90 minutes every game, particularly twice a week.
Yeah.
Aaron Presley has struggled with injuries, so he's not really come back. So last night, Lupala came on to play alongside Carnu. But
it's not who's the ball going to stick to, you know.
No, and obviously not. So you think that would force them to not Knox along and to play through the middle, which
because Aidan Flint's a lovely footballer, I think. Like he can ping diagonals to the wing backs really nicely, I would say.
Yeah, I would never criticise Aidan Flint because he's like he could tread on me and squash me, sort of thing. But his distribution of late has been not great.
Oh, that surprised me. I remember watching the Barrow game where I thought it was excellent.
He has been. He has been. Just last couple of games, it's just off a little bit. Defensively, absolutely first class. Last night, Crawley, fair play to them. They absolutely dominated the game. And it was only Aidan Flint and some great saves from Miles Roberts that kept us in the game. Because if they'd have won that game 4-0, I think it wouldn't have been incorrect.
What do you make of Walsall, Danny, from an outside perspective? I don't know if Salford have played them yet.
We have, yeah. I was just thinking about it because I think when we played them, we played them away, and I was there. First time I've been, actually, so I enjoyed that experience. But I just think at least they were then, and I think they probably still are, a very, very useful yardstick to measure yourself against. I'm sure we lost. We might have lost 2-0. Do you remember, Simon, at all, was it? I'm sure we lost.
Well, we had been doing well at home, so I think, we probably did pip you, I think.
I never felt like we were in it, to be fair. And it just felt like you were... Grim is too strong a word. I don't think I don't think your style is kind of that bad, but it felt functional. And we didn't seem to be able to do anything about it, despite the Carl's histrionics, as we always know. I just don't think we could combat what you were trying to do, and what you did well. So that stuck in my mind, and it's not a surprise to me that you're still in the mix. But maybe it's one of those where you're kind of chalking off the days and saying, well, we're still in a good position, and it's another month gone, and we're not going to drop out of it.
It was like that last season, where it's like, we're on a bad run, but we're still second. You're not going to sack the manager while you're second. I'm just thinking, regards to that game, I think it was the Crew game, and I heard the Crew manager after the game, and he says, Walsall are the type of team where you're in control of the game, and they like to make you think you're in control of the game, and then they just beat you. And but I'm fine with that, and that's really quite like a cheeky smile sort of thing. The last couple of games, it's sort of the special moments and clinical moments haven't been so clinical, and we've not created too many opportunities. And from the back, just launching the ball into nowhere and just giving away possession too often. We've got some good quality midfielding now, but we still not.
Patterson's a great signing. I thought he was fantastic for Bradford.
But I mean, what he's not good at is getting to the ball when it's 20 yards above his head.
Yeah. Well, I think the idea would be, and this is why I would go back to, I think signing a target man is so important, is because I think certainly for in possession, if you've got someone the ball's going to stick to, Patterson's the kind of player who can get onto those seconds.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So I think that's going to be really important. So that's going to bring the best out of him, the wing backs.
Here's a question for you, Gab, and for you, Danny. Has a team got promoted from League 2 when they've not particularly been high up on possession, like as lower possession as Walsall?
Stevenage won promotion in 2023. They were very much a direct team. They had Danny Rose and Jamie Reid up top, and they weren't very possession based, I would say.
Because then they changed their style, haven't they? They're doing okay in League 1.
Yeah, but I think in League 2 we're actually seeing quite a common trend where teams are actually going away from possession. So conventionally possession-based sides like Notts County and like MK Dons, they're saying, you know what, I think we'll go another way with this. And I criticised that at the time, but actually it feels like quite a common trend. Carl Robinson was a possession-based coach at Salford, and his teams now don't. They don't want.
You'd be lucky to see that from him ever again, I think. Yeah,
exactly. So it does seem to be quite a common trend, Simon, that teams are going away from possession. I don't think it's just Matt Sadler.
We were talking about it recently, and it's if Walsall do get up, they're going to have to change style completely to compete in League 1. And I had an interesting conversation, and I know you see a lot of football, but I think that the Premier League has stepped up so much, and the Championship has stepped up so much, and League 1 is now, in my mind, like the Championship used to be. So it's just a big gulf now. The quality level stepped up.
So I agree. I think there is a gulf. I agree there is a gulf. However, I actually think the gulf in style is slightly exaggerated, and I think the gulf in athleticism is slightly underplayed. So I spoke to a director of football at a League 1 club back in December, and one thing he said is that clubs higher up the pyramid, they're less likely to go for somebody who's really technical but doesn't have certain athletic qualities like pace or strength, whereas if somebody does have that, they feel like, even if they've got a bit to work on the technical side, they'll take the chance. So actually I think the gap is higher up, is possibly bigger in athleticism than we would often imagine. That would be how I would read it.
Fair point.
Yeah, it's difficult. You've got to try and keep to your own style. like Walsall's style of last season was a high press, winning ball high up the pitch, and then being clinical. But it seems like the high press, we seem to be moving away from the high press a little bit, and trying to have more creative players who are not going to chase down so much. But then, unless you've got the ball, you're not going to do anything with it.
Do you think Walsall are going to challenge for the top 3 then, Simon?
At the minute, no.
So do you think it's going to take another 3 additions to make you more confident if it's the right?
I think if Walsall get another 1 player in, I think that'll be all we get in. I don't think there's money there.
Okay.
I think Matt Sadler's recently talked about the big budgets that are in the division, and Walsall are sort of well down the bottom. And one of our previous chairman or co-chairman now, Lee Pomlett, will always talk about, well, how about Bromley? They've got even lower budget than Walsall and they're top of the league. And so it's one of them. It's what you do with it. Matt Sadler getting the team punching again and being up near the top of the division. But in his first season, we were close to the playoffs and fell away. Last season, I don't know whether you remember, it was sort of like a bit of a nothing season, really, where Walsall sort of slipped away. It's out of my mind. I can't remember it. And here we are, end of January, and Walsall are going through a bit of a rough spell. So it's, can we get back on it and sustain where we are there? Because there's some very good teams up there. Salford are having a good go this season. Cambridge look like they're absolutely flying again. MK, so much money spent again. Yeah. And then cheeky Bromley at the top, just keep winning.
Well, quite literally cheeky Bromley, because they've got they've got Michael Cheeky. Oh, that was maybe that was the joke, right? Sorry about that, Simon. Thanks a lot for joining us, Simon. Lovely to see you, and I'm sure we'll catch up later in the season.
Cheers, mate. Join the pain,
Simon.
Nice one. Enjoy the pain. Speaking of Bromley, I'm delighted to be joined now by Holly from the BFC Breakdown. Holly, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time this evening. How are you feeling about Bromley's promotion chances after that 2-2 draw with Crewe Alexandra midweek?
The nerves are just starting to kick in. It was a good game. I was there last night. It was a good game. A draw was probably the fairest result, I'd say. So, and we're still top. So,
yeah. I'm wondering, Holly, do you think with the goals that you conceded, I think Samuel's possibly a little bit fault at the back post, and for the second equaliser, and for the first, I wondered if you'd have conceded it if you did have Deji Ellery in central defence. He's obviously got that move to Lincoln in the last week or so. Do you think defensive reinforcements are important in light of that?
I think it's definitely the position we need the most. We seem to be quite strong in every other aspect. Like you say, Deji was a very important part of the team, and I'm a little bit heartbroken he's gone. So I do think we need some help, especially with Omar. He's very tall. Deji was also very tall. So I think we do need 1 or 2 more like that if we're going to stop conceding and keep our position at the top.
What do you think is the secret to it? I mean, from my point of view, what I've been really impressed with is the humility of the group, the ability to understand your limitations. For example, I watched the Walsall game in November, and you're willing to kick the ball right up near the opposition corner flag from kickoff. And I think lots of teams would like to do that, but weirdly, it almost takes a certain level of confidence to do that, because you're literally going out and saying, we're better without the ball, and it's sometimes a bit of a statement to actually do that. But actually, if that's the most effective thing, that you'd rather the opposition had a throw by their corner flag than you have the kickoff in the centre circle, then actually it's the right thing to do. And I like the culture that Andy Woodman's built.
I think it's also the fact that we don't just have one key goal scorer. Obviously, I should shout out Michael Cheek. I know he scores goals for fun, but as you saw last night, Ben Thompson scored, Kabamba scores, Honda Mark can score. So I think we're quite lucky that, we could have 10 other players surrounding Cheek to stop him from scoring, but they do come from other parts of the pitch.
Certainly do. Danny, what have you made of Bromley?
Well, I was just going to ask, or maybe, I don't know if it's a statement or a question, but it just feels to me that there's a lot of clubs, and I class my own as one of this at Salford, that when you look at the recruitment over a period of time, you think that signing doesn't make sense. If they're trying to do, if they're trying to get a certain identity, a high pressing team or a very athletic team, whatever, why have they made this signing because it doesn't fit? Why have they made that? I look at Bromley and I don't see that. And that's why I think they don't seem to waste money. They seem to be able to get through on a smaller budget because they know exactly what they want and what the team needs. And it's not about the glittery baubles on the Christmas tree that are kind of, oh, he's from League One, oh, he's from the Championship, oh, he's this. It seems to be more focused is all I can say. And I envy that. I don't particularly like your style of play at all. Do I have to? I hope not. But I think what you're doing is amazing, to be honest.
Holly, who would you say are your key players this season at the moment?
Well, I suppose we could leave Michael Cheek out. I feel like everyone's always going to say him. Nicky Kabamba. Omar. I know he's in. He can score a few goals, defends.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Ben Thompson. He seems to be quite a key sub at the moment. He comes on at the right time. I wasn't not sure if you saw the Boxing Day result. He came on after 80. By the 85th minute, I think we were 2-1 down and we won 3-2. So
that's pretty impressive, isn't it? Yeah, I like Ben Thompson's energy. I think was it the second goal he made a lovely lung-busting run, and it was Hondermark who played him through, and I think that's possibly a thing that's a little bit goes under the radar because you're such a set-piece goal, and it's often me knocking it down for cheeky. It's underestimated that you've got Pinnock who can put the ball on a sixpence, you've got Crowhouse who can create, you've got Ben Thompson, who's been man of the match in the Championship in his career before. Hondermark, I think, has talent. You've got a few, it is a reasonably, it's a group that knows its limitations, but also there are some, moments of quality that it's capable of producing.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, it goes back, you can't ever rely on one person.
Yeah.
You can't just rely on one, because if there's an injury or they leave for whatever reason, you're then kind of back to square one, starting from scratch. And I think it's nice that we don't just rely on one particular player in the team. They can all do their bit as and when it's needed, really.
Do you think you'll make the top three then, Holly?
At the start of the season, I predicted 7th. But after, I think the last few months, yeah, I think we could.
Great stuff. All right, well, best luck, Holly, and hopefully the Ravens do the business for you.
Thank you for having me on.
My pleasure. Thanks.
And good luck. Thank you.
Cheers. So I'm delighted to be joined now by Freddie Owers of the Yellow and Black Army of Cambridge United. Freddie, thanks so much for joining us. You must be over the moon. Thank you for having me. Yeah, you must be over the moon with that unbeaten run that the U's are on at the moment, and really excited that you've finally got into that top three.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, I think there were 3 separate games that had last-minute goals last night that sent us into the top 3. So yeah, I mean, it's I can sit here and say that I always knew that the squad was capable of it and that I saw it coming, but really, you don't really anticipate these football league seasons to go like this and to go so well for so long. Yesterday's fixture seemed a little bit ominous, the way that everything was going too well, and then we had an on paper very easy fixture at home, and it was very tough, but look, we got 3 points and the run continues. So yeah, over the moon, and it couldn't really be going much better.
Certainly couldn't. I've always associated Cambridge with having a really good defence this season, and I think that's been a real strong point. But recently, what's caught my eye is the attacking trio of Louis Appere, Sully Kai, and Ben Knight, because they all seem to complement one another, because you've got Appere, who's that industrious target man type who can also bring others into play. You've got Ben Knight, who offers that bit of creativity, that sprinkling a genius in the 10 role. And then you've got Kai, who likes to run in beyond. And the three of them, they seem to complement one another brilliantly, don't they?
Yeah. But I don't think we've seen a sort of trio like that maybe since our promotion season last time we were in League Two. And definitely seeing that sort of Wes Houlihan type role being filled by Ben Knight just in behind the attackers, and he's doing it so well. It's really good to see us invest in a young player who has something to prove. Very good technically, and yeah, he's coming in. He didn't quite hit the ground running. It took him a bit of time to get into the first team regularly, but now that he is, he's flying, and I'm sure with him still being a young player and having a lot to play for himself, he'll only continue to get better, which is really good, and it's good that we have him on a permanent, and he's operating around players that maybe are more experienced than him to be mentors and to use his creativity to their own effect as well.
Could I just ask, Kylian Kouassi? I mean, I know he's not made.
Quite hear you. Sorry.
Oh, apologies. Can you hear me, Gab?
I can hear you perfectly. I don't know what's.
It's a question about Kylian Kouassi. So I've had audio issues throughout, I'm afraid.
Fred,
so...
are you able to hear that from Danny or?
No, I'm not. Unfortunately,
it's just about Kylian Kouassi, Gab, just to see what his impressions.
Yeah, Freddie, I feel like a translator here. Danny's asking about Kylian Kouassi.
Yeah, I think we haven't seen too much of him. I think he picked up a little bit of an injury and hasn't never managed to quite form a string of games in the first team before that. He was quite good at the start of the season. I remember he had a good game against Charlton in the Cup, and he scored a couple of good goals in the league and domestically in certain other competitions. But I think I wouldn't expect to see loads and loads of him in the run-in. I think we'll probably stick to. I think Apre will get a lot more games, and also we've just signed Nevitt, and I think he'll feature probably more so than Kouassi will.
That makes a lot of sense. Talk to me about that blend of youth and experience that you've got in central midfield, because you've got Pelly Ruddock-Mpanzu, who was part of Luton Town's impressive rise up the leagues from non-league right into the Premier League, which is pretty much unprecedented for one player to be part of all of them. But you've also got George Hoddle alongside him, who actually caught my eye in one or two occasions last season, and clearly has good footballing pedigree, I suppose, in his genetics. Yeah. So between them, that's quite a nice pairing, I imagine.
Yeah, definitely. I think Mpanzu is a very unique type of experience where not many players have been all the way up, as he has. Usually, you get experience within a certain level, and their experience at that, then there's not much sort of deviance with it. But with Pelly Ruddock-Mpanzu, he really is the full package when it comes to experience. So to have him at the level that we're playing at now, I think was quite a coup. And he started a bit slowly. I think he hadn't played too much for Luton Town towards the back end of his time with them, so it took him a bit of time to pick up just for fitness. But for the last 3.5 months, he's been one of our best players, I think. And having a player like him there with the experience that he's got really has allowed Hoddle to also develop very well and feel confident to explore his newfound role in midfield. And again, similar to the situation up at the front of the pitch, in the midfield, it's nice to have a really good balance of a player who has a really good footballing brain and understands the level inside out, and then a player who is learning, who can continue to develop without having to take on the responsibilities that the more experienced players do. So I think it's a really good balance. Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you think you'll be active in the last few days of the window?
I don't think so. Okay. There haven't been too many murmurs of any more movement going on, but you never know. Teams will have players that they'll be wanting to loan out. They might be keeping until the last few days to see about injuries and whatnot. So we have been known to do the last minute business like that. If it was going to be like something like that, it'd probably be a loanee. Certainly no permanent business in the last few days, but who knows?
Do you reckon you'll finish in the top 3?
Yeah, well, I came on this podcast at the start of the season and said that we'd finish 5th, and a few of my mates had a little bit of a pop at me for that. But I'm going to stick to my guns of definitely playoffs. And if things keep going the way they're going now, I've always been quite positive on your show, Gab. So I am going to go positive and say that there's no reason why we should let up. We're not going to go unbeaten for the whole rest of the season. But if we keep going how we are now, then I see no reason why we can't finish in the top 3 places. Yep.
Absolutely. Freddie, thanks so much for joining us, and look forward to catching up later in the season.
No worries. Thank you very much, Gab.
Cheers, mate.
Bye.
So, Danny, about time to get on to Salford City. I did want to ask you about the performance against Chesterfield. Obviously, you wrote about it in your Medium piece. One argument says you were hit by a sucker punch at the end, having had, all the chances in that game up until that point, and very unlucky to lose. The other side of it is that all of the chances I watched the extended highlights, and all of the chances he had were corners. There might have been 1 or 2 free kicks, and I think there was a ball up top from Matty Young that Chesterfield's left back missed, and Danudo got through. But other than that, very little in the way of creativity through the middle. So where I think you're possibly on the slightly more critical end of the spectrum when it comes to dissecting performance.
Always. Yeah, I think I came on once, probably in my whole history of being on with you, and I think I was quite buoyant once. Not that was this season sometime. But anyway, in terms of critical, it's not just me. I promise you, it's not, because there's lots of WhatsApp groups I'm part of, and the Facebook groups, things like that. That all Salford fans. I think it's actually the reaction to yesterday's result and performance is worse because we lost in the end. Whereas to me, I feel just the same. I came away thinking, well, if you start rotating players, as sometimes you have to do on a Tuesday, Saturday turnaround, and the players you bring in are, in my opinion, well, Matt Butcher and Ben Woodburn are, in my opinion, just about serviceable and nothing more than that. They're just not good enough. That's why they don't play. When Josh Osterfield is playing regularly, that was not the plan. Matt Butcher came in to play. He's been paid to play, and he's not doing because he's not performed very well. And Ben Woodburn has had a long-term injury, but hasn't set the world alight in 2 years after dropping down from the Championship. So we rotated yesterday, maybe thinking that was the right thing to do, to rest a few people's legs. And we didn't look like we were hungry in the press. Our press is our defining characteristic this year, and it wasn't happening. And I think probably the best chance was it Graydon hit the bar. That was I got out of my seat once. That was it. So yeah.
I think with regards to Matt Butcher, I think if I think of him doing well in his career, it's probably been as a box-to-box midfielder with Accrington Stanley, with Plymouth Argyle and Wycombe Wanderers. But I think now he's in his 30s and he's not able to get up and down the pitch as much as he used to. I think his influence, even at League Two level versus League One, which is where he has played most of his career, is significantly limited. So you'd almost be interested to know if you agree with this, Danny. You'd almost be better off having somebody like an Elliot Watt at the base of midfield who's a natural playmaker, even if they're not able to get about the pitch, because at least then they're dictating play and offering something like I suppose Josh Osterfield would be able to. So yeah, I can see why you'd miss somebody like Osterfield.
Yeah, I mean, I don't rate Osterfield. I'm not saying that I do. It's just that he's become preferable to a player that we specifically recruited and brought in from a higher league. So it makes a mockery of going back to the Bromley situation. Our recruitment, in my eyes, is scattergun. It's not clever.
I think it's got better. I think it's got better, Danny, myself.
As we start to pay more, sometimes it gets better. If we get Macaulay Langstaff, then it'll be great.
You found players, I think, who are like Haji Minoga, Callum Cisse, Danudo. I think these are players who fit a particular mould of what you've tried to do. I think your recruitment serves a bit. Previously, I'd agreed with you, but I don't think that's true at the moment. I think you actually recruited really well for this season.
But to be honest, Haj Minoga he was the outlier of we didn't really look down below League Two before him. We brought him in on a 1-year deal with a 1-year extension, and he can be as he was last night. I don't know how much he showed up in the extended highlights, but he was by far the best player on the pitch. Absolutely steaming into people. I messaged him today and just said, listen, absolutely fabulous. And he said, thanks, I appreciate it. He's a very, very approachable guy. So he's a major find. And the fact he was being looked at in the summer by Lincoln and others, absolutely no surprise. Aluo, yes, is a big miss. Although I think Brandon Cooper has totally revitalized himself. He's turned himself from the darkest of books for me. He was going nowhere. He was in the butcher camp. He's holding things together. But Cisse is, I think, Cisse is athlete over technique all day long. And if we can work on that,
he's been bombarded with games, Danny.
I agree.
Because I think when you're a pressing player who's you're having to be all action for 90 minutes and constantly on it, to then play 90 for a whole season, I think that's a lot. And for somebody that's not played in the Football League beforehand, I think you're putting a lot of demands on him. And I can understand why, because he's got quite a unique role in the squad. And I don't know if there's anyone else who does that in the same way. But maybe that's one of the challenges that Carl Robinson's had to navigate.
Possibly, and there are times when he's actually not been in a match day squad at all, which and we just presume it's just to rest those very, very thin legs of his, because he is an absolute powerhouse when he's on it. But my theory as to why he's no longer as influential as he was, and he looks a bit like a fish out of water, is we've changed his role. When he was performing best, we still had a back three, but we almost had two deep players in front of that back three, which was Osama Ashley and another. And that allowed us to play no central midfielders at all and one attacking midfielder in a pressing role, which was Callum Cisse. He was bloody brilliant in that. And now when we play a 3-1-4-2, he has to play a more disciplined central midfield role alongside a partner. It doesn't allow him to stretch his legs box to box in the same way. That's my homespun theory anyway.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. The other thing I'm curious about is Kelly and Mai, and whether you think he's still going to be there come 3rd of February.
I would say, and I've written about this, is that I actually think because of the system we play, he doesn't have a position. He fits our style of being an absolute manic presser. He can press teams like you would not believe for an attacking player. It's surprising how determined he is for such a small fella. He can potentially play one or three positions, four if you include right wing back. So left wing back, because he's a left winger by trade. He can play as attacking midfield, supporting the strikers, or he can play as a second striker. Bearing in mind the players we've now got, we've paid big money for to play up front before we even start recruiting extra ones. We've got enough strikers. Kadeem Harris, when he's fit, I think he's an absolute hammerlock at left wing back. There's no doubt about that. And the right wing back slot is Hadji Minoga, immovable object. So to me, I don't want to sell Kelly and Mai, but the argument I made in my blog was that if you have a player that can't really regularly fit into your first team, even though he's absolutely brilliant and someone wants to buy him for a lot of money, sell him, because your first team's not going to suffer that much as a result.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the other option would be when Harris is available to play him alongside Udo or Grade, and that would allow you to rotate those strikers.
True.
But it's, I can see how it'd be a luxury. And also in League Two, he's going to be a 7-figure asset, isn't he, Kelly and Mai? So,
absolutely. You
can't turn down that sort of money, I don't think, in League Two, even when you've got some external investment. So,
totally gap. Yeah.
Do you think Salford are going to make top 3, Danny?
I think I mentioned Macaulay Longstaff about 10 times already today, and I apologise. But I think he makes everything make sense if he arrives. He's the best. Mainly because of his pressing. Yes, because Dan Udo's not actually working out very well for us, as most fans are thinking. You can look at his 7 and 6 goals and assists, whatever he's got. He's got a lot of goal contributions. But I forget who it was who mentioned that he had an injury a little while back before he arrived with us. And he seems to have lost a bit of pace. And I can see that when you see grading against him, that is a bit of a night and day thing. And I do actually think that they are a bit too similar in the fact that they both sometimes have had seasons where they've had almost level pegging goals and assists, which worries me. Whereas I think Langstaff could come in and be the ruthless clinician and the best presser I've ever seen in this league. He presses like two men, or at least he used to when he played for County.
But Langstaff played in a very scored all his goals in a very possession-based Notts County side with flying wing backs and creative tens and Dan Crowley and all that sort of thing. Whereas when Carl Robinson's going long from deep because he's completely abandoned his whole belief system.
He has.
Sorry, Carl. I think it's a very different kettle of fish. Now, maybe there's a world where he plays alongside a Graydon or Renedo who can do that work for him. But I don't know whether stylistically he'd be able to adapt to the way that Salford play as opposed to what he's done for Notts County, which was under Luke Williams.
It's a great. I mean, honestly, it is the point that needs to be made because I constantly, I think at least for a few paragraphs in every single article I write, I always try to wonder why we are playing like we're playing, because we sign technical midfielders like Jorge Grant, we sign Matt Butcher. We sign Graydon and Udo and these people who have got technique, and Michael Rose, a passing centre back in from what I can see, or at least a wide centre back. Why we've got probably the best distributing goalkeeper in the league. He's getting a lot of pre-assists. I'd be giving him some assists for some of the ways he's settled, because sometimes you see it, he just gets it over the defender. Does Matt Young? So
I thought you were criticising in your medium Matt Young's distribution.
For that game, it was shocking.
Oh, I see, right.
I'm afraid it was shocking against Chesterfield. It was out on the full, out on the full, out on the full. He'll know that. He's an honest lad. But in general, last season he was pinpoint accurate. This season he's been very, very good. But I just think when you start to look at the pieces in our team, technical midfielders brought in, very, very good distributing goalkeeper, and strikers who can get in behind now with pace. Why are we playing like Matt Smith's up there? I don't understand it. I don't think you do either, Gal. But I haven't got a reason as to why we do it. Fear.
My perception would be that you're quite good at being incisive, and it's not just the long balls, but it's also playing it forward and getting Udo in the channels, and then you've got Cisse running beyond and Kelly and Nye. And I see it as a bit more fast-paced football rather than just long balls. That would be my perception of Salford City. And I think you've got athletes, and they bring a kind of an electricity to things.
We do. And I'll just say this, is that's why Josh Osterfield plays ahead of Butcher. They persisted with Butcher as long as he could. And then they thought, what we need, like the Beatles said, all we need is legs. That's what we needed. And Josh Osterfield has got better legs for running than Matt Butcher. So there you go.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, well, a few questions for Salford to answer in the last few days of the window, but still an impressive unbeaten run that had been for the Ammies before the defeat to Chesterfield. I did want to, before we wrap up, have you got another 5 minutes or so, Danny? Perfect. I did want to ask you about MK Dons, because they're really starting to come to fore. We weren't able to get an MK fan on tonight, but they certainly seem to be showing their they've got a squad where they've got tons of names that you would associate more with League One than with League Two, and that class is starting to show in the last couple of months.
Yeah, I mean, I actually went there I've never been to their stadium before. Probably my favourite stadium to go to. Some people think it's a soulless hellhole. I don't. I like a padded seat. I like to feel like I'm in a Champions League ground in the middle of like Norway or something. It just feels really nice. But in terms of the actual team, I'm impressed with them, and I was impressed with them when I saw them live. I think in the past, I felt they were soft. Without being too harsh about it, I felt that they had a soft underbelly, a bit like you would say the pre-Pochettino Spurs. You know what I mean?
Right, okay, yeah.
That thing that it's only Spurs type thing that Fergie said at halftime famously. I didn't sense that, and I don't sense that. And I look at the results, and I don't. I think if they're not in that top three, then I think someone's going to absolutely have done an incredible job. So I fully expect them to be in that. But again, I've just referenced my team. We're due to play Man City in, I don't know, less than a month.
Looking forward to that one.
Yeah, well, not really, no. Not after what happened last year. So all I'm saying is that can massively, the fact that we might get beat by more than 5 goals again, that could make our confidence implode as it did last season. And that means Salford become less of a factor. It changes the mix-up. So I'm not saying anyone else has got a seismic moment ahead of them like MK Dons have the same, but the mix-up can change depending on what other teams do. So
I think this team has a bit more about it than last season's team.
Yeah.
I think I see a bit more of a tougher underbelly about this season's Salford City team.
Oh, Salford as well as MK Dons, maybe. Yeah,
absolutely.
I
But I
hope
think
so.
going back to them, I like that they've got Aaron Collins back fit now, which I think makes a huge difference. He's a top end forward at this level, and he makes a real difference. They've got Cam Patterson, who's played in the Championship before. I like that they're a team that plays forward early, and again, it's historically they've been very much a possession-based side. And I'm not sure I agreed at the time with them changing tack and going for Paul Warne, which hadn't been the vision that Liam Sweeting had sort of had before, and you sort of you kind of were wondering what sort of direction they were going in, but actually it's proved quite a worthwhile change of tack for them, I would say.
Yeah, and I'll say this, I'm going back to seasons past, but I feel it's such a shame that, what was he called, Williamson, the manager who they had for 5 minutes. I had the biggest hopes for him. I don't know what he's doing now, but I could tell that it just wasn't going right when he was there, and he was the ultimate in kind of, I think he's a massive possession-based fella from what I could see in terms of having his team on the pitch. It felt like he was empowering them, not MK Dons necessarily, but I keep going back to Gateshead, empowering his team to solve problems themselves. Whereas I see other managers, and I would class our manager in the same, it feels very much like I've mentioned in my blog, that it's very AI, it's very kind of robotic. And I personally don't like robotic football. It's not very entertaining. And I did like the fact that, going back to a previous manager, admittedly of MK Dons, Williamson, I had massive hopes that he would have gone to a club of that size and he would have done something. Didn't happen.
You know what I think what Mike Williamson needs, to go on a slight tangent, is I think he needs a really charismatic vocal assistant. The problem, though, with these coaches, I think sometimes is that because they're so ingrained in their own beliefs in what is successful, and they can sometimes be guilty because they're so technically and tactically astute that they can sometimes underestimate the man management and motivational side and the importance of that. They recruit other people who are like them, and actually they need someone who's different to make the equilibrium work. And that's partly why I think Mike Williams actually struggled in the Football League, whereas I think he possibly needs people around him who are different.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, people who, I think you're talking there about kind of like an echo chamber, that what you want is your views coming back at you from other people, and it's the same. Whereas, the harsh truth of almost like the opposite, the yin and the yang, that might work better. And
you need someone who believes in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because if they're completely on opposite ends, then you don't have an alignment. So you need an alignment, but they've got to bring different qualities to it, I think is really important.
Totally with you on that, Gab. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Right, I've got to ask you for a prediction then, Danny, in terms of the top 3. Bromley have already established a pretty healthy points return. They've got 56 points under their belts already, so they might only need another 30 at most from their remaining 18 games, which I think they've shown to be more than capable of, providing the right defensive additions come in. So do you think Bromley are gonna do it?
I do, and I wish I would have asked Holly, who was on, how she thought they would go in League One, because that's something that I'd be fascinated to hear what fans who see him every week would think. I'm going to go with them because I just don't see the juggernaut slowing down. It doesn't seem to be wobbling. So I'm going to go with them. I'm kind of not going to be able to look past MK Dons, I guess. I just don't feel confident saying Salford though. But again, I said that if good old Langstaff comes in, then I think that's we're just going to hoover goals in. Something's going to happen at the end of the pitch. But I've got this funny feeling that there's something so solid, and it's a shame my audio was a bit off on the Cambridge segment, because they are the most impressive organised team I've seen this season. They just are, and that counts for a lot. So I would say that if my team don't get it, then I've got a feeling that just by sheer lack of errors, that Cambridge might get in there.
Cambridge have that high floor which can count for so much in League Two. It's like you don't get promoted on the games that you play well in. You get promoted on the okay, we're not at our best, we've got these players out, but can we grind out a 0-0 draw away from home? And it's those points that sort of make up the tally, I believe.
That's where I go.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I agree with you on Cambridge. I think my proclamation would be this. I think Bromley, just on the mathematics, if they have a wobble, then the situation could change, especially if they don't replace Ellery-Way. But I think at the moment it'd be difficult to go against them based on the maths as much as anything. I think MK Dons, because the quality they've got, it'd be hard to say they finish outside the top three. And I think it's going to be one of Cambridge, Salford, or Notts County for third, because I don't know if Walsall and Swindon are going to make it for the top three. Would you say it's going to be one of those three?
Yeah, I would. I'd actually Swindon. I must admit, no disrespect, I'm kind of mentally writing them out of that. That raising the bar, so before the end of the season. Walsall, I really, I don't know, because I think they're a strong unit. As you said, they probably need the missing piece, but if they can get that, there's still what we got. End of the month, isn't it? The end of the transfer window.
Oh yes,
yeah. So then I think Walsall could join your little band of possibilities, but I think I'd probably just write Swindon out of it in the nicest possible way.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, well, that's great. Thanks so much for your insights, Danny, this evening. And everyone, get subscribed to One Up Front Salford City blog. It's on Medium, isn't it, Danny?
It is. Free.
So you can give that a search and get yourself subscribed, and also to the Old Dead Tree fanzine on the Ammies. You can also get subscribed to EFL Debate on YouTube and on Spotify. And on YouTube, we also have a memberships option as well for those who want to support the channel and receive that bonus content. Thanks so much for everyone for watching. Thanks to all our guests, and we'll see you again for another League Two podcast next week.